Hi, I'm Nancy Scott with Masterpiece Quilting, and welcome to the So Pink Initiative Blog Hop. The project that I'm making and showing as part of the blog hop is how to make a sentiment quilt for someone who is undergoing cancer treatments or any type of illness. And you may be asking, what is a sentiment quilt? Well, a sentiment quilt is one where you can take a piece of fabric and then write your own sentiment on that. Some type of a get well wish, a scripture passage, any type of message that you want to give to the person. And then it is assembled into a quilt. And that is something that is gifted to them, and they can take it with them if they're going to treatments or as they're resting and recovering. So that's what a sentiment quilt is. There are a lot of different ways to make a sentiment quilt. And I'm not saying that there's a right way or a wrong way. I've made several of them, and you know what? I've never made them all the same way. So I thought, hey, it's finally time that I get some ideas down on paper, capture everything, and because of this blog hop, now I can share it with you. So what I want to do first is just go over real quick the materials or the supplies that you're going to need. Many times when sentiment quilts are being made, it ends up being a group of people. There may be one quilter, somebody who doesn't know how to quilt, but they know how to sew, somebody who doesn't even know how to iron. You're going to get the whole gamut in there, and you're going to want to be able to use everybody as part of the process. So if whoever's in charge from the kind of quilting standpoint understands the whole process, then that makes it that much easier for you to incorporate other people into it. So what you're going to need is some 8-inch squares of light colored, I'm going to say a solid or a tonal, something that everyone can write their message on. And what I did was just used a light colored tonal. 8-inch is an approximation. If you have 8.5-inch squares, that's perfectly fine. 9-inch squares, that's fine too. And you'll understand that here in a little bit. You're going to need coordinating fabric. And I've got a stack of pinks here and some pink fat quarters that would just be beautiful coordinating fabrics that would highlight breast cancer. So that's going to be perfect for breast cancer awareness. The coordinating fabrics need to match the person that you're making the quilt for. So if it's not breast cancer, but another type of cancer, there's always the colors that are associated with that kind of cancer. If their personality is more floral, then a beautiful floral print such as this. And use lots of different florals, or use this as the inspiration fabric to pull matching fabrics with. If it's somebody who's masculine, outdoorsy type, camo fabric is perfect. So you're going to know the person that you're making this for much better than I am. So go ahead and pull those coordinating fabrics that are going to make sense for that person. And this can be as scrappy as you want, or it can be very themed and planned out. Going to need a backing fabric, which can be one of these or something different, polyester batting, a 1/2 yard of binding fabric, something to finish out the edge. Again, one of the coordinating fabrics, or it can be something different. Going to want a 6.5-inch square cutting grid or a 6.5-inch cardboard template. And I'll explain that a little bit more in a little bit. A rotary mat cutter, cutting grids, a water-soluble marking pen. That's going to be the blue ones. Not the pink and purple ones. Those are our air erase, but you're going to need the blue one. And some type of a permanent fabric marker. Sharpies are always quick and easy to grab no matter where you live. Preferably fine or ultra fine point. Pigma is another brand of fabric marker. There are a variety of different permanent markers that work on fabric. And that's going to be the key that you need to look for. Permanent marker that works on fabric. And if you're not sure before you send all of these markers out with fabric or tell people what to get, if you've picked up something, do a test one yourself. Write it on the fabric and then just start rinsing and washing it by hand and see how much it comes out, if it bleeds, if it fades. That's going to give you your test. So let's talk a little bit about who are we sending all these out to. We're going to be talking about friends, classmates, co-workers, family members that are going to want to write some type of message of support. And again, that's going to vary with the person. The biggest challenge, and this is kind of that why part, this isn't what you're going to find in the pattern. The biggest challenge when you send out a square of fabric like this, let me get the one that doesn't have the wrinkle in it. Send out a square of fabric like this is inevitably somebody starts right here in the corner and they start writing, and they don't leave you any seam allowance to sew with. That is the biggest challenge. So the method that I've come up with, there may be other methods, but this is what I have found works well, is starting out with our 8.5 inch square. And let me give this one a quick press here. I'm going to take our 8-inch square, we got a 6.5 inch grid, eyeball it, go for center, and then we're going to use our water-soluble marker and mark all the way around all 4 sides. If you've got folks in the group who are wanting to help and they have no sewing skills, chances are they can handle this, or they can handle running the iron and prepping things. And you can just do this in an assembly line fashion gathered at somebody's house. This one's pretty faint. This one's marked a little bit darker, but you can see that we've got this blue line around here. That is going to be where they need to write inside of. So as you're sending all of these out, whether you're handing them out, putting them in a break room with instructions for coworkers, they're going to be writing on that inside. So when they come back, and they can write any direction, sideways, this way, whatever way they want. Going to give them a quick press. I normally go on the reverse side. Clear a little bit of space here. And then using your cutting grid, I'm lining my 1/4 inch up right on that drawn line. And we're going to cut. So we started out with a 6.5 inch drawn square, and we're adding 1/4 inch all the way around it, which is going to give us a 7-inch block that we're going to be working with. That's why earlier I said if your blocks are not exactly 8 inches, it's okay, because we're trimming off this extra. And you can tell I didn't have that centered exactly perfectly. One trim off's a little bit bigger than the other one, but it gets it accomplished that when we get this trimmed, we're going to have a nice 7-inch square to work with. The water-soluble lines that we drew, that is actually going to be where we are stitching. So we shouldn't have to worry about them showing. If they do, if seam allowances get just a little skinny, and that happens, no judgment here. Trust me, no judgment here. Just take a spritz of water and that'll take care of that water erase for you. So when we get done, we've got a 7-inch block. You'll have your 7-inch blocks of fabric, your coordinating fabric, and then you can put them together. And you're thinking, how do I put them together? How many do I need? Biggest thing is getting back all of your sentiment blocks. The particular size quilt that we're working on is about roughly 3940 by about 60. So something that is kind of cuddle size. If you're making this for a child, you may want to go a little bit smaller. If you're making it for an adult man or person who's larger, you may want to go a little bit larger. That's stuff that you can personalize based on who you're making it for. I'm just kind of giving you that big overall why and how, and giving you some guidelines to follow. I've got some sample layouts for you. Just some ideas to figure out where your sentiment blocks go and then where your other blocks go. and just play around, kind of lay it out. There is no right, there is no wrong, whatever looks good for you. Biggest thing is depending on how many sentiment blocks that you come back with. The other thing that always comes up is, what do I write? And you know what, I've been there too, where I've had to do these and it's just like, you know, get well soon. You know, you want to put a little bit more than that. So I've listed some sentiment ideas for you. Scripture passages, quotes. Kids can express themselves with a drawing and then just print their name. And don't be afraid to draw. This is one that I made, and I went ahead and just drew some flowers on it. It kind of filled it in. It made it seem appropriate. Always send along extra blocks. If you're doing it for classmates in school and there's 20 kids in the classroom, send along 25 blocks or even more, because somebody's inevitably going to make a mistake. Something else that you can do is write it out on paper first, then put your fabric over the paper. If you've got a light box, that works. If you want to hold it up to the window, but that gives you kind of a guideline to work on. You can always go onto the internet, do a search for different sayings. There's bunches of them out there. So that pretty much takes you through the process. Then we're just piecing the top together, quilting it, layering with batting, backing, quilting, binding, and boom, you're ready to gift something. But the key is kind of getting those sentiments captured onto fabric, and how do we do that onto fabric? So that was the why that I wanted to explain to you. So the blog post is up, and it kind of goes through and gives you a little bit of the details. You're going to find the video. Hopefully a link to this video was on the blog post or somewhere. Who knows where everything will get shared. And there'll also be a link where you can download for free my instructions on how to make the sentiment quilt. So even though circumstances may not be the best that you have to make one of these under, I do wish you well, and I know that it is a gift that many people do enjoy receiving, being able to read those messages when they're not feeling the best, but know that people are rooting and cheering and supporting them on through their illness. Again, my name is Nancy Scott with Masterpiece Quilting, and thank you for being a part of learning how to make a sentiment quilt. Bye.